I'm Ezra Okenda. I'm one of the ambassadors, Hyperledger ambassadors in Africa. We are trying to build an Hyperledger community in Africa where we can share knowledge in and around the Hyperledger ecosystem, the products it has to offer. So I'm glad you are here. Let's move into for the introduction. You can mention your name, where you're from, your interests, and what you expect from the community. Let's start off with Joab.
Well, thank you, Kenda. Once again, I'm Joab, and I'm from East Africa. I love saying that because I just envision it as just one state. From East Africa. I was born in Rwanda, raised in Uganda, and I ventured into the blockchain space way back in 2020. And from there, I've been, I've been indulging in different aspects of blockchain. And one of the specifics that I'm a blockchain educator, and I've contributed to different protocols in different countries. Speaking of Zambia, speaking of Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, and Uganda, and I'm glad that I began on this journey with Hyperledger, and uh, I've done something already with the Rwanda community. Last weekend we had a small meetup which was about the introductory part of Hyperledger and blockchain to be specific, and was a successful one. So I'm glad that I'm on this one here as well, and yeah, we can move it from here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Joab. Alvin, you can introduce yourself, say you are where you are from, what you expect from the community and stuff. Alvin.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
So I'm Alvin Kangara. Based in Kenya. I'm fairly new to the blockchain and Hyperledger community. I'm still a student, so I don't know as much. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm glad to also be knowing that there are other people who are interested in the framework in the Hyperledger framework. So, but I'm very to be fair, I'm very new. I'm fairly new, so I'm here to learn. I'm here to understand and indulge with the rest of you guys, and I'm proud to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alvin. Welcome. I hope you are going to have a chance to learn from those who have experience and also explore their Parija projects. There are quite a number, so feel at home and welcome. Akinde, you can introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Idowu Akinde, but you can all call me ID. Everyone calls me ID. Um, I am based in Nigeria. I do have 2 decades of general software development experience and a little bit of blockchain experience near the tail end of that. We used to run, I and a few other people, some of them from East Africa, West Africa, and South Africa, used to run this Africa chapter previously, but it was shut down for some reasons that are in the past now. I'm happy to see this resurgence, this new renewed interest in having Hyperledger activities in Africa, because I believe that a good number of the automation and technological development opportunities in Africa might as well be done right. I think we have a unique advantage on the continent in the sense that if the other continents that have been properly industrialized could go back, if they were not industrialized like we are today, they would definitely be doing things the way we have an opportunity to do them now. rather than build a lot of centralized databases, they will build a lot of decentralized databases. And so I feel that this is the opportunity for Africa. Hyperledger also is probably the best positioned for business on the continent when you take out the obsession around crypto, so I'm all for the adoption and the widespread education of Hyperledger on the continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ide. Thank you for your wise words. So let's proceed. Asante, you can introduce yourself, then where you're from, then we proceed.
Awesome, thanks. Can you hear me?
Clearly.
Yeah, I'm Asante, joining you from sunny Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And I have a significant background in blockchain technologies. I do a lot of community work here in Tanzania, and I'm very excited to see what everyone has planned for Hyperledger in Africa. Thanks.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Welcome. Sizwe, forgive me if I don't pronounce the names correctly. Sizwe, if you can hear me, you can introduce yourself, tell us where you're from. And yeah, sure.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sizwe Buthelezi. I'm from South Africa. Yes, you have pronounced it correctly. I am a student. I'm doing research that involves blockchain. So that is why I'm also here, because hence I was looking for blockchain related topics or articles, anything community, and then I came across this one. The main interest for me here in this community is that it is talking about Hyperledger, because when I was reading some of the articles, I've noticed that Hyperledger is preferred if you want to develop maybe a private blockchain for an organization. So my area of research will be the pharmaceutical supply chain. So I would like to implement it on the pharmaceutical supply chain. So that is the main reason why I have joined this, so that I can get to understand who are other people who are working within the Hyperledger. And I'm still new on this blockchain thing. I just got interested on it. So now I'm also keen to learn from you guys based on my topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome. I think I haven't left anyone out. So I think David can do a quick run-up of what Hyperledger does, what the community is expected to do. Then from there I can have a preface, then we can proceed from there with questions and see and chart the way forward.
That's great. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for inviting me to this conversation. I've been looking forward to it. Let me share my screen really quick. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
So as you said, Ezra, I'll do a couple minutes on just what Hyperledger is, and then we can dive into what the topic is today. How do we restart activities, community activities in Africa? We could do, as ID said, there has been some past activities. I can review those quickly, and then we can talk about what the group may want to do going forward. But just as an introduction to Hyperledger, it sounds like there's some people who are relatively new. So just to say a few words, the Hyperledger Foundation is part of the Linux Foundation. The Linux Foundation is a nonprofit organization that hosts open source communities. There's hundreds of communities that they host. You're probably familiar with some of them, such as Linux itself or Kubernetes. The focus of Hyperledger is enterprise-grade blockchain solutions. I'm showing here that some of the different projects on the website. as an open source community, everything is free to use, free to modify, free to contribute to, and that's the mission of the Linux Foundation. We want to make sure that important technologies are available for people all around the world to use and adapt however makes sense for them. So you can see, you may be familiar with some of these projects. Fabric is the oldest project, pretty widely adopted. Bezier, a little bit newer than Fabric, but also we're seeing a lot of adoption. So this is part of what happens in the community. There are developers from all around the world who come together and work on different software projects as open source. But that's just part of what goes on. I mean, I heard there was a comment before about, hey, how are people using this? I'm interested in using this in pharmaceuticals, for example, or I'm interested in using this for supply chain. So another part of the community that we have activity around are people who are taking the software and trying to adopt it in a given industry. So these are our special interest groups. You can see we have a number of special interest groups around a number of different topics, healthcare being one, supply chain another one. You can see a number of different topics here, climate, public sector, etc. Just to click into one of those to show you, these are people who have an interest, a shared common interest, who want to get together and collaborate around a theme. In this case, the theme being around, adopting these tools in a given industry. But I think for our discussion today, we could look at this, but just with a theme that's relevant for you. How do we, as an open source community, we really want people with shared interests to come together and choose to collaborate if they want to do that. And then my role as a staff member is to support those people who are collaborating. So if you want to come together and collaborate around a theme of, regional adoption, instead of industry adoption, we could look at regional adoption. For example, how is this being adopted in Africa? That is certainly something that we could support you with. And that's something that we've seen. Here, let me show another link. And we've seen that happen in other parts of the world. What I'm showing right now is a map of the different Hyperledger meetup groups in the world. You can see we have over 180 groups in over 80 countries. And in many cases, different parts of, in different regions of the world, we have people choosing to come together and collaborate. So we have a very active community in Brazil, for example. They meet regularly. The community members there prefer to have conversations in Portuguese, which makes sense. So they have this whole infrastructure that supports the people there to collaborate in ways that they want to collaborate. So they have regular discussions in Portuguese, events in Portuguese, both virtual and in person, and then they, that's how they choose to collaborate. And we've also seen that sort of regional collaboration in India and Japan and other parts of the world. And as ID said, we had in the past an active Hyperledger chapter in Africa where you could see we have a number of meetup groups in different countries in Africa, and there was a time when we had people in each of those groups choosing to come together and collaborate on a regional level. But you can see this hasn't had recent activity. This was last updated in 2022. So I think for a variety of reasons, as ID said, this group hasn't been that active recently. I think a big reason was the pandemic. We've seen a lot of Hyperledger meetup groups all around the world go inactive because of the pandemic. Before the pandemic, a lot of these activities were in person. Obviously, during the pandemic, we couldn't do that. So we saw a lot of meetup groups shut down. And now that we're kind of past that, it's really great to have conversations like this with people like you who are wanting to restart activities. So like I said, I'm looking forward to this conversation. I think the situation that we see in Africa is really something we see across the world. There are a lot of meetup groups all over that are inactive that, I would like to see restart. And it's really, what makes a community work, what makes one of these meetups work are people like you who show up and say, hey, I want to do an activity. I want to do a thing. I want to collaborate with others. So I'm really interested in hearing what your interests are, what you want to do with the community in Africa. If we restart things, what can I do to support you? So, but that's my role. That's the community. There are some pieces in place that we could use if we want to. So I'm showing the Hyperledger wiki right now. This is a space in here. I'll drop the link so everybody can get to it. You can see what's been done in the past, for example, and we could use this as a platform going forward. There's also, if we want to use it, we set up a mailing list for the Africa chapter a while back. Again, it hasn't been active recently, but it's something we could do. The community also uses Discord for real-time chat discussions if we want to use that. This is all to say there's a lot of tools and support available that you can start using. So again, but I think it all starts with what are you trying to achieve, and then I could talk about what's available to help you with that. So that's kind of a quick introduction. If you have any questions about Hyperledger in general, or about what's happened in the past, or what other regional communities are doing, we could take a deeper dive into maybe what Brazil or India are doing. But I think there's some really good models that you could look at that you may want to consider for any activities you may be interested. But with that, I'll pause. Are there any questions or comments about any of that? And Ezra, I see that a couple people may have joined recently. If we want to invite them to, introduce themselves, we certainly could. But like I said, I'm just here to support. I'm really interested to hear what each of you want to do this year, and then we could talk about, how I could help you with that.
Yeah, sure. So I think we are going to keep the conversation open. So oh, everyone feel free. So I think we are going to have a round again where you can share what you think, what you have in mind. Then for those who didn't introduce themselves, when it's your turn, you can introduce yourself. Let us know where you are from, what you expect from the Hyperledger community, or what any ideas you have in mind. Then we can see. I think we can have a round. Anyone can start. Then from there we can also take questions if you have any. Then we can keep the conversation going.
Yeah, that sounds great.
If I have to say something, Ezra, is it fine for me to say something like a question or address some
Yes.
concern?
Yeah, please.
Well, I'm Job once again, and I'm glad I'm here, and I love the fact that David, you're here as well. So, speaking of Hyperledger, like I said earlier, I had a meetup last weekend and was successful. And one important thing to note was for my community, because communities differ depending on where you are at. So, for the Rwanda community, people are interested in blockchain. To be specific, the entire blockchain as it is, it is it is something that is just coming up. Not so many people are so acquainted with it, and so different takes with that serve different aspects of life are being looked at in different ways. So when we speak of Hyperledger, to be specific, I found out that it is an interesting take that everyone would really want to walk around with. So my question is, as I and Ezra say that we are ambassadors and we present Hyperledger to our communities, one of the questions that I had to address was, Job, if I'm to be spending time learning about Hyperledger, you called me for a meetup and this, what is it going to happen after? What do I have to do? Why do I picture myself with Hyperledger? Why should I add this knowledge of Hyperledger to what I already know? Because the biggest number of those people were devs, Web2 devs, yeah? So my question is to you, David, if we were to form the Hyperledger communities, yeah, I understand that blockchain is really what you bring to table. It is an exchange of value. You have to sit down, come up with something, given you leverage on the power that Hyperledger has. But the question is, are there any structures that you have as Hyperledger Foundation that are going to support these young communities that are going to be coming up? There are some like mentorship programs that there is one I saw. I don't know, but it sounds like this. There is a criteria. I saw someone posting a meetup for that is going to talk about different mentorships. Perhaps you talk to us about that later. What are the benefits? Because many times people do get benefits. Unfortunately or fortunately, to me, it is fortunate. That's what it is like in my community. So I would love you to give us an introduction. Okay, a talk that that really gives us an in-depth understanding of the benefits of having these communities coming up in Africa. Because yeah, it is true we are going to leverage it. Of course, we are going to use it, but to if I should use the word intimate engagement with Hyperledger to be specific. Thank you.
Well, I think that's a very good question, and I think that's what makes a community work, right? This is entirely optional and something that people could choose to do or not. So, my view on this is that people would choose to get involved in any community, not just an open source software related community, but any community because there's a reason and a shared interest and shared goals there. So, again, that's why for me it really comes back to what are you trying to achieve, what are your needs, what are your goals, and then we could talk about how that aligns with other things that are happening in Hyperledger or other things that we could do to support you. But in general, I mean, I can just talk about some of the support that's available, and we could see if that does map to things that are helpful and useful for you and things that you want to achieve. Um, and we can talk about that now, but again, maybe we can also revisit that later. I am curious to hear what people are interested in here and what you are trying to achieve. And then after maybe we do a round of that, we could kind of go back and talk about, other support. But in general, you mentioned, for example, a mentorship program, and that is something that Hyperledger does each year. I put a link to this meetup in the Zoom chat. So every year there is a paid mentorship program. This is something where it's important to us. We want to make sure that people have an opportunity to learn how to contribute to open source. So this is a way where we take existing Hyperledger community members who are running a project or running a lab or running a group, for example, um, who want to work with somebody new to the community and help them learn about what's going on and have them do some work. So that is coming up. Um, it is paid. There's a stipend that's associated with this. And so if you want to learn more about that, you're welcome to join this meetup that's coming up in April. The application, if you want to take part in the program as a mentee, the application for that opens in early April. Right now, we're in the process of having mentors who want to work with a mentee apply. So we go out to people who are running projects or running a lab or running a group and say, hey, if you want to be a mentor and you have a project in mind, submit that. So we're in the process of doing right now. So I don't know what projects will be part of this year's mentorship program yet, but by the time we get to April, we'll have all that information. So if you're interested in that, certainly come to this event. Um, Other sorts of support that's available, I put a link to this in the Zoom chat as well. But specifically for meetup organizers, what we had talked about here about how there's meetups all across Africa and all across the world, we do have this meetup organizers guide. It speaks to the support that's available, a number of things that we can do. For example, if you want to look through this, you certainly can. This is public. It's on the wiki. I dropped a link to it. So please, it's long, so I won't go through all of it right now, for example, but I'll touch on some of the points on this. You know, uh, um, there are a lot of things that we could do. I think one of the biggest things we can do is really amplify what's going on. If you want a platform to talk about what's going on, your expertise, your understanding, your knowledge, what you're trying to do. Hyperledger does have, a fairly large community where we can really get that out in front of people. You can see here, for example, our meetup community has over 100,000 people in it. If you look at, what's going on Twitter, we have, I can't remember the exact number, but, tens of thousands of people. You can see here almost 80,000 followers. So I think that's one thing, we can really amplify and get your voice out in front of a lot of people. And we've seen that for a lot of meetup organizers, that's been a big benefit. They've really been seen as an expert in their region or as an expert in a certain topic. If they organize, events and activities around a certain topic, that really demonstrates that they have that knowledge, they have that expertise. So I think that is a big reason why a lot of people do run activities, not necessarily only meetups. There's other things that we could do, which speaks to, again, maybe what this group would like to do. Meetups is one thing that this community could do. Workshops or hackathons are another. Training, I'll give you one example. For example, the Latino America chapter did training in Spanish because that's what they felt like was important for their community. You know, a lot of Hyperledger activity happens in English, and some parts of the world that's not their preferred way of communicating, or that's not their preferred way of having information. So we saw that Latino America chapter come together and create training material in Spanish, and then they delivered that in a series of courses. So, you know, again, this really speaks to whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. You know, we could support you in different ways, but this is some general information about benefits and support that's available. I don't know if that answered your question fully, but that was some information.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much.
And again, if we want to go around in a circle, and I mean, I'll make some notes and share some things as I hear what people are interested in. But yeah, definitely curious to hear. I mean, what are your reasons for, you know, if you wanted to get involved in the community, what are you hoping to achieve by doing that? What are you wanting to accomplish?
Yeah, I think we can do a go round. Job went first. Asante, you can go next. Then in that order, then after everyone has spoken, we can take them. Then they will be answered.
Okay. Mine, I think, is going to be something that's pointing out the obvious. I feel there's a lot of space for like capacity building when it comes to like these technologies. It's relatively new, and there are also not very many people that even could develop it. So if we have more workshops and hackathons for people to get like nice stickers, I feel that's something that we could have a lot of focus in on. And for me, one of the things that's plus for me is if I was to take part in this community is to continue to learn. Learning is pretty fun to do, and when we're learning about cool stuff and relatively complex stuff like these ZK proofs and stuff, uh, yeah, it's
Yeah, I think capacity building is great. You know, I think that's again something we can certainly talk about. If you're telling me that capacity building is a goal for you this year, yeah, I think there are certainly things that we could do. We could, if there's a specific topic that you're interested in, we could collaborate to organize a workshop, or you know, there's a number of different things I think we could certainly do. So I think capacity building is you know, I think a good topic to explore more. And if people are curious here, I'll drop a link to this as well. This is the list of past and upcoming workshops. You can see here, we've done a number so far in the past, and there's a couple coming up and more planned. But if that's, again, if there are specific topics that you think would be really relevant for you and the community there, you know, we can certainly talk more.
Yeah, I think uh, ID can go next. Then we in that order. ID.
Okay, thank you, Ezra. I was actually going to raise my hand to say that, to add something to the comments about capacity development. So in addition to helping members, people who are on this call and perhaps on future calls, people who are registered members of the community, right? The African Hyperledger community. In addition to helping those members increase their capacity, you know, help them acquire new certifications, new knowledge and certifications, I think that capacity development can also be an attraction, something that sells Hyperledger as a community to the rest of the general African community and helps to bring in more members. So I just wanted to drop that point in there. I think that it can be something that if perhaps there is an annual hackathon, okay, or innovation challenge around blockchain, and the winning team of maybe maximum 2 or 3 gets, now I'm going on a limb here. David, please tell me what is possible and what's not possible. If all members of the winning team get some kind of full scholarship to get some kind of certification, both the classes and the certification fees for Hyperledger Fabric, Vesu, and any of the others. That sounds like something that we could really, really market, right? We could really, really sell that and say, guys, come participate. All of us could go into the different campuses, university and college campuses in our countries and make noise, and people will come because there is the possibility to win a prize. So I wanted to drop that, but the other point I wanted to drop was I'm heavy into technology and talent development here in Lagos, Nigeria. I do a lot of work with young people, help them build skills and software development skills. So the idea of hackathons and innovation challenges, just fits into how I would like to see the community progress. Thank you very much. I see you've opened something, David. Please go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll drop the link to this in the Zoom chat as well. But yeah, I agree with you. And this is an example of something that was organized by some of the regional chapters a couple years ago. You can see this is the Hyperledger Challenge 2022. This was organized in part by a number of different parts of the community. The India chapter leaders really drove this. They collaborated with a number of the chairs of some of the different special interest groups, and you can dive in and kind of look through and see how they organized it and how it was structured and what came out of it. But yes, I mean, to your point, ID, this was very much an innovation challenge, and then there was a couple of rounds, and then the winners. Yeah, we did absolutely. Here, let me pull up the training page. We did provide information. Excuse me, let me get this for you too. We did provide some certificates, the opportunities to take, some courses for free and take our certificates for free. Just to go through this quickly, we have many free offerings on our trainings page to start with. So this is, if I drop the link, you can go to our website. There's a number of free online courses already. There are a couple of paid options. Specifically, there's an advanced course that has a small fee, and then there's this certification. Currently, we have a certification for Fabric, and then we're putting together a certification for Bezu, and those have small fees associated with them. Mostly because there's some manual involvement. There's some costs associated with having somebody proctor those, so we just need to cover those costs. But yeah, so we gave some opportunities to take these exams for free to the winners, and I think that was something that was really interesting to people and of value. And so that's certainly something we could do again if that's of interest.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that a community is trying to support those who are joining, those who want to get knowledge in and around the Hyperledger Fabric and other Hyperledger products. So I think we can proceed to Alvin. Are you there? Alvin, you can put out a word.
Yeah, I'm here. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
So, yeah, okay. So, for me, I can only speak for in my capacity as a student. So as David was asking, maybe one of us would share why they would want to know Hyperledger. For me, I can speak as a student. During one of my final projects, I came across a challenge, and I was supposed to come up with a system that, for example, in Kenya, there's an issue with land grabbing and those kind of issues where certificates are forged, and you end up finding that a lot of you guys are having the same certificates as pertaining land, and I came across Hyperledger, and I tried to learn and build a project around it, but I was not successful. I found a lot of challenges, so I kept on trying. And I remember, if I'm not wrong, I messaged Ezra on LinkedIn asking for mentorship, because I felt like, I don't know, I don't say the learning process wasn't good enough, but I found challenges, especially with the Hyperledger fabric. So that's what I wanted to major on. So that is why I want to learn Hyperledger, because I feel like that's exactly that project in itself would allow me to exploit that niche, uh, and help Kenyans. Let me say that, quote unquote. But yeah, so that's all I can say. Maybe I would like a better learning way, where you get hands-on. I don't know if the certification gives you that, but I would have preferred if there were, like, someone doing it from the start, from the get-go, introducing you to Hyperledger Fabric, more of like a teacher. Let me say that, more of like a teacher, and teach you how to do it. So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, a couple of thoughts come to mind, and here I shared a link to the case studies. I mean, the good news is the community is 8 years old now. We just recently had an anniversary. So I think you have the benefit of learning about everything that's been done so far. So, for example, if you have a specific use in mind, like I heard you say with land registry, you can come to our case study library, for example, look through all the different topics that already exist. There is one around land registry, for example. I think you can just learn a lot as a starting point about what somebody else has done, like that had a similar goal in mind. You can see these are in-depth examples of what got built, why they built it this certain way, what benefits this group had, and kind of that's a starting point on learning how to do a thing. But what I also heard you say is it's useful to have a teacher. So, and we can do that. I think that's what our workshops are, for example, but, and some of the trainings aren't that, many of the trainings we have are online self-paced. You kind of go through information on your own. Uh, um, I think a couple things come to mind. Again, if there's specific topics that it would be useful to have more of a hands-on teacher-led experience, we could certainly talk about how do we work with you and the community in Africa to organize one or more workshops this year around a certain theme. Maybe it's land registry, maybe it's something else. It's really up for the community to decide what would be valuable. Another thing that I've seen other parts of the community do is something that they've called a study circle, which is getting people together, and it's more of a collaborative, peer-led teaching experience instead of going through previous workshops or trainings or other material or tutorials on your own. It's really a group of people coming together and doing that together, because there is a lot of material out there. For example, I mean, we do have all these past workshops. There are a bunch of tutorials. There are there's these courses. So there's a lot of learning material there. Uh, um, but again, it might not be something that you want to do on your own. So that would be another thing for this community to consider. Like maybe you want to have a study circle where you invite people to come in together and learn collaboratively, that's more peer-led versus teacher-led. So yes, there's a lot of things we could do, but those are some examples that I've seen happen in the past from other parts of the community that I think might be useful.
Thank you so much. I think next we can go to Sizwe. Sizwe, are
Thanks,
you there?
Ezra.
Yeah,
Can
yes.
you hear me? Am I audible? Am
Yes.
I
Yeah.
audible?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
sure. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I would also like to also compare with Elvin, because I'm also a student who was attracted in blockchain. And then when I got interested, in fact, I learned about blockchain through cryptocurrencies. But then here in South Africa, I noticed that there were a lot of scams when it comes to cryptocurrencies in such a way that even blockchain, people don't understand it. When you talk about blockchain or anything that relates to Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, they think that you are scamming them. So I had to come up with a way of understanding blockchain without involving cryptocurrencies. That's why now I told myself that I will have to do research that will relate or that will include blockchain. So that's where now when I was reading different articles, then I came across different blockchain applications whereby I also learned that there's Hyperledger, and then there's all these Besu, the Fabric, and different types of Hyperledgers. So as I was also trying to get to understand this technology, I was struggling to get to get information that will enable me to develop maybe a blockchain app or anything that can be developed through blockchain. So that's where now I was looking for Hyperledger courses. Then I came across this meetup. So what I'm expecting to learn, even though I'm not sure if this is what you are also expecting from us, but then for me, I was thinking that if I attend this, I will be able to connect with different people. I will be able to be guided in terms of where can I go if I want to develop what material do I need to learn. So but I'm also getting that this is a community. So I'm also still trying to think on how can I also contribute in this community, because I have noticed that initially I was coming with a mind of coming and taking, because if I will come and learn, it's just for my personal gain, for my study. But then I also noticed that in Africa, this counterfeit of drugs is a real problem. So now I'm also thinking that how can I also expand beyond my studies, beyond just getting a qualification, to also now contribute to African community, because if this can help someone in South Africa, it means that it can also help someone in Tanzania or in Nigeria or any part of Africa. So that's where I'm still coming from for now. But then I'm still trying to learn this technology. I'm not a developer. I come from communication networks, but this is one technology that I have interest in. I can do anything to learn how to do coding or to do anything that relates to blockchain. Thank you.
Well, that's great. Well, I mean, you said a number of things in there that I would like to respond to. I guess the first one being at the end, you said you're not a developer, and I'm not really a developer either, and that's totally fine. There's all sorts of ways to participate in the community. Coding and being a developer is one of those ways, but there's many other ways. So, for example, if you want to be somebody who organizes an event, you don't need to be a developer to do that, right? I mean, that's not there's a lot of different ways to contribute in the community that doesn't involve being a developer. So that certainly is every all sorts of skills, and all sorts of interests, there are things that people can do in the community. Uh, um, Another thing to share is about telling the story. You know, if you want to go out there and tell people the story about what Hyperledger is, what blockchain is, how it's different from cryptocurrency, for example, we can help you with that. I mean, that's another way we can support you. If you want to go talk to a campus with students, or if you want to go talk to an organization, or if you want to go talk to whoever it may be, we have a lot of that material that we've created because we have to tell that story as well. So you could say, hey, I'm trying to have this conversation about this topic. Is there any material that already exists that we could, make use of? And so, yeah, absolutely. We have high level, presentations that talk about what blockchain is, what Hyperledger is, how it's different from cryptocurrency, for example. So again, that's something that we could help you with as well. And then lastly, you had said, yes, absolutely, this is a community. You certainly, as an open source project, you certainly can show up and just, use the code or use what's available that's there. You can certainly use and consume that material. But I think to get the most out of this, I think collaborating and contributing would certainly help you get the most out of what you want. Because again, you could shape the community to do what you need. I think that's the beauty of an open source community and why it works for people. You can show up. A community is whatever the community members do, right? So if you want the community to do a certain set of things, well, you could show up and make that happen, right? None of these projects that we looked at are, the Hyperledger staff doesn't tell developers what to do. Developers show up and say, hey, I want to work on this or I want to work on that, and we support them, right? And the same with the activities, the staff doesn't tell anybody what to do, and that our role is to support. So when people show up and want the community to do a certain set of things, it's really those community members who are determining those activities, right? So I think that's how you get the most out of this. If you want the community to go in a certain direction, well, you show up and move it in that direction, right?
I think I hope your questions are answered. Then we can go to Fadil. Fadil, you can introduce
Hello.
yourself. Think you joined later, then you can say what you. Yes, yes.
Hi.
Okay.
Yeah. Fadil, we can hear you. You can introduce yourself
Okay.
and tell us what you expect from the community, and yeah, feel free.
Okay. So hi, I'm Fadil Linya, and let's say I'm a blockchain developer, but currently I'm more focused on the community aspect in Web3 specifically. So I'm in uni still, but apart from uni, I do keep myself out there attending various blockchain events and Web3 events generally. So as per now, what I can see this year, we are very much bullish. We are very much bullish on the blockchain technology, as like I can say like we are much advanced since like last year and before the years before, the blockchain space and the blockchain community was still subtle and was slowly growing. So yeah, but this year we are expecting as in more developers and more people can come into the Web3 space. So Hyperledger being in the blockchain space specifically, and I would really want it to be maybe recognized as with the developers and maybe communities on as to how people can come and also build with Hyperledger with these frameworks, and maybe they can come and bring projects that will impact the environment and the people at large. So yeah, one of the ways I see like we can maybe make Hyperledger vibrant in Africa. For this case, Kenya. Recently, as I've said, I've been involved in several events. So one of the ways is through maybe events, maybe hackathons, ideathons, just builder sessions. I think that it will be at least it will be a little better, and it will bring about to a wider adoption in Kenya specifically. So yeah, so I expect, or what I do believe we can do maybe to leverage that. Maybe if we can host several events either virtually or preferably physically. Yeah, I think that will be it will be I think that it will be another way in which you can maybe grow the Hyperledger community in Africa, East Africa, and Kenya at large. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I agree. I mean, I mean, a lot of what we've been talking about so far are things that are happening virtually. So, for example, those workshops that I shared, this meetup itself is all virtual. So you're right. I think there is this mix in the community between the virtual online activities and in-person activities, and the group can certainly do both or really focus on one. We see different regions and different groups focus in different ways. I mean, if the preference is to do in-person activities, that's certainly great. It's really, again, up to you about what you think is going to be most effective. But, in terms of what's available, yeah, you'll see there is this mix of between kind of some virtual offerings and some in-person offerings.
Yes, I think we can go to Joan. John, are you in a position
Hi.
to speak? Hi.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So maybe I'll just start by introducing myself. My name is Joanne Jerry. I am a software engineer, but not a blockchain developer, but I'm looking to be one. So how I landed in Hyperledger is through the LFX mentorship program, which actually Hyperledger is part of, and I participated in the last cohort. So it was a very good program, and honestly, I think all of us should apply to do one of those Hyperledger or even just any open source project under the LFX mentorship program. So the project I participated in is called Pablo. It's a project under the Hyperledger Labs. It's basically a tool that automates Hyperledger Fabric deployment. We do a lot of benchmarking using the Hyperledger Bevel project as well. So that's how I ended up with Hyperledger. So for me, it is a very steep learning curve because I had to learn about Hyperledger Fabric. I had never even used it before. I just knew there was something like Hyperledger Fabric. But now, having to work on this project, I've had to actually really learn it. And even now, I feel like I don't really know it clearly because it's a very complex blockchain, according to me. So, and I feel like a lot of us who have spoken have talked about the need for capacity building and learning and all that. So, because honestly, even my mentor was like, I know this is a complex thing, but let's just go step by step. And he was really, really helpful. And for that, I'm very grateful. But also in the mentorship program, we're encouraged to create more content like blogs, to speak at events, conferences, and all that. And I feel like that's one of the things that could be very helpful in this community. If okay, I came in late, I didn't hear everything, but I feel like there's the thing about us being ambassadors, and I feel like one of the things that we can do is create more content, maybe organize, speak at more events. If we can organize even physical meetups, whether for Kenyans, South Africans, wherever you are, even if it's like 5 people, it really helps with just building the community and getting to know each other, and also just sharing challenges and learnings and all that. So that's one of the things I think can be helpful in the community. And then I like what one of us talked about, innovation challenge or hackathons or something like that. I think that's a good idea as well, considering we have students here in this in this forum right now. I didn't actually know there are students who are interested in Hyperledger because I've gone for meetups for blockchain and Web3, and most of the people I found who knew about Hyperledger are like people who are already in the industry, they're working. And I was like, why don't you guys use Hyperledger? And I feel like most of them were like, we gave up on it. It's too hard to learn. I even tried doing the certification and I failed and I just gave up on it. So I figured, I think a lot of people are giving up on Hyperledger because they're having difficulties learning it. So obviously now, one of the things that I think should be focused is creating a strategy for more people to learn easily and even just have an easy, how do I put it, get to work on it easily. So I have a few ideas that I don't know if the Hyperledger Foundation can support us. So something like the Hyperledger, what is it called? Hyperledger Global Forum. Yeah, yeah. So I know the LFX, the Linux Foundation gives scholarships for people to attend, Linux Foundation events. But I feel like it would be more useful if the Hyperledger Foundation can maybe sponsor one person from the African community to attend one of these events, the international events. So we can also have someone coming back to teach us who is one of our own on what they learned, what is going on out there. Because sometimes I feel like there's nothing much going on in terms of Hyperledger in Kenya or in Africa generally. Yeah. And also just for us who are here and those people who are interested in Hyperledger community, maybe we can find ways in which we can volunteer in different capacities to grow the community, whether it's organizing events, people creating content, people making noise on social media about Hyperledger, sharing case studies, any important things. I think that would be useful. Yeah. Also, I'm not sure if there's a platform like Slack or Discord that brings the Hyperledger Africa community together. If there's one, I'd love to know about it. But so far, I don't know. So I think it would be useful if we had that, like a space so that we can have consistent communication on matters Hyperledger within the community. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that. I mean, there's a number of things you mentioned that I want to respond to. One, I'm glad you had a positive experience with the mentorship program. For anybody who didn't see this earlier, we talked about it at the beginning of the call, but I'll drop this again. We are doing our mentorship program again this year. If you want to learn more about how to apply, this meetup that's coming up in early April will be a good place to learn more. If you can't make that meetup, again, the recording will be on YouTube. You could view it there. There's also information on the wiki about that. So yeah, everybody is certainly welcome to apply to that. You did mention about communication channels. Absolutely. I think that is a good next step for all of us to discuss. Hey, if we want to continue the discussion after this event, where do you go? There is this mailing list that was set up years ago. That may be something the group chooses to use again. So just be aware that's there. We do also use Discord in the community. Here, I'll get the link for where you can go to learn more about that. Here, sorry. If we want to use Discord, sorry. Let me go to the wiki. Sorry about that. Chat. I'll get the link here in a minute. But yes, there's a Discord. We do use Discord in the community. You're certainly welcome to. I think there's I'll double check. I think there's a channel there, an Africa chapter channel, but we could certainly use that. Here's the link. If you want to get onto our Discord server, this is the link you can use to get an invitation. And then once you're on there, you can talk to, people across the community. There are channels for different projects. There's channels for different groups. You can certainly reach out to people. So if what I can do is to everybody who signed up to this event, afterwards, I can send the link to the recording, and then I'll also send a link to the Discord channel. And if this group wants to meet there and continue the discussion, I think that would be great. And I think another point you had is around being able to travel to events such as Global Forum. Yes, that's certainly something we can look at as well. What we do for all of our major events is offer some amount of travel support to people in the community so they can attend. We could potentially look at doing that as part of a challenge. I shared earlier that the community has organized challenges in the past, and part of the prizes has involved, for example, the opportunity to take an exam, for a certification exam for free. We could also look to see if it's possible to have part of the prize be travel support to the next Global Forum. So those are all things we could certainly talk about.
Yeah, I think, thank you so much, John, for your question. David, much appreciated for your contribution. Ronek, you can go next. Ronek, are you there?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I'm here. I hope you can be able to hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, my name is Ronnie Chimbugwe. I am from Kampala, Uganda. And just to give a brief about my journey with Hyperledger. So I get to find out about Hyperledger around, I think it was a year and almost a year and a half back. So basically, I'm in the blockchain space. I work for a company called Crypto Savannah Limited. It's based in Uganda, Kampala. We are part of a group called Savannah Group Africa. We deal, basically we do blockchain, but through blockchain we're able to do there's a identity traceability and other things. So we're just challenged. There was a project that we're doing, and we were challenged to come up with traceability solution. But then I started getting interested in private blockchain, and one thing led to another. I found out about Hyperledger. So I read everything that I could. I think I've gone through most of the Hyperledger courses on Udemy.
I don't know if it's me or not, Ronnie. I think you may have frozen. I don't know if other people are able to hear you.
I think it's network. He has a network issue. I don't know. I think we can. Ronnie, we can't hear you. Ronnie, we can't hear you.
Yeah, maybe if he, yeah, did we lose him?
Maybe.
Yeah, it looked like
Yeah,
he
I think
dropped.
he dropped. So, Adeolu, you can go next.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Adeolu is my name, joining from Nigeria. I'm not new to Hyperledger, and I'm not new to blockchain. So, but I have been tracking everything blockchain Africa, everything that has to do with blockchain Africa for several years. I happen to be one of the pioneers of blockchain awareness in Nigeria, one of the leaders of the blockchain ecosystem in Nigeria. I am actually the chairman of the blockchain coordinating committee of Nigeria. And coincidentally, I also work for the Central Bank of Nigeria, and I was early in the research on blockchain, and part of my effort to push for mainstream adoption of blockchain led me to Hyperledger. Sometimes earlier in 2020, I think, I think before COVID, when things was very much in the early stage, and that's the 2019, 2020. So I've been following Hyperledger for a long time. I was able to do some early research that made my organization to adopt the use of Hyperledger. So if you have been following the trend on central bank digital currency, you will know that Nigeria is one of the few countries that has launched a central bank digital currency. And I mean, and also it will also interest you to know that the underlying technology we employed, a fabric, Hyperledger fabric is one of the technology that CBDC rides on. So I've been very passionate about blockchain for so long. I happen to even be a cryptographer. I mean, my professional background is in cryptography, so I am very interested in the deep technical stuff. So, but talking about blockchain in Africa, yes, I have participated in a lot of blockchain ecosystem. I mean, in bootstrapping the Ethereum ecosystem in Nigeria, and even several other public blockchain ecosystem. So, but also being one of the few that has been exposed to the enterprise blockchain ecosystem, like Hyperledger. I've been working with David here, trying to
Okay.
Did we lose him
Are you-
too?
Yeah, I think we lost him. Is he? Yeah. Adeora, if you can hear us, we can't hear you. Yeah, I think David, you can answer. You can put context to what you was trying to say. Then probably you can proceed.
Oh yeah, it looks like he did drop, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, as he said, we have had some conversations. They are, he mentioned central bank digital currencies. Again, that's a topic that if the group is really interested in learning more, we could certainly look at that. Maybe we could do a workshop around what the central bank of Nigeria is doing, for example, if that's helpful. So I don't know what he was gonna follow up with. I don't know if he was gonna have any suggestions or anything to follow up with, but I think this points to how we want to really keep the discussion going. If people want to use Discord, for example, I think let's definitely let's continue the conversation here. I think hopefully this is just an introduction to everybody and that will continue, keep the conversation going and continue. And I see that Adulu did have a chance to rejoin us.
sorry, I'm not sure where I got disconnected.
Yeah, no worries. I'm glad you could join again. And thank you for joining the call. Yeah, you dropped maybe a minute or two ago.
Okay, I'm not sure what I said last, but I think I'm just happy to join. I mean, knowing that we have people from other parts of Africa that are also interested in this technology. I'll be glad to work with everyone and take things forward. I mean, all the conversations we've been having and making this happen in Africa. Thank you.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you for that. And yeah, when you dropped, we were talking about how I think it is really encouraging to see that a lot of people are interested, from different groups are interested in collaborating. So I think we definitely want to keep the discussion going. If Discord works for you, we were just saying that perhaps we can move the discussion there. So I'll send an email around to everybody who signed up after this event ends today and talk about how we can keep discussion going on Discord if that works for everybody. But yeah, thanks you again for joining. And if you have specific suggestions or ideas, certainly please do share. And Ezra, I don't know, is there anybody left who hasn't had a chance to speak yet?
I think everyone has spoken. Yeah, I think everyone has spoken. I will speak, then we can you can speak, then we can unwind. Yeah. So thank you so much for everyone for joining. I think the community has been around for a while, just that we haven't been that active. And the first thing I want to put across is that it's an open community, meaning anyone can join. You can come with your ideas. You can share it with David and I. We are available for that. Again, also around last year, we I think in 2022 we had training sessions where we were training on the introductory topics, which had quite a good turn up. To be honest, to say the run curve for the Hyperledger ecosystem isn't that easy because it combines a lot of programming languages, a lot of technologies, which some are new, and you have to have like background knowledge of a programming background knowledge for you to do the technical stuff. But there are also like there are communities that are into ideation where you can meet very cooperative people. You can meet people who are willing to teach you, to show you the way. As for me, I joined I think in 2021 where I was part of a team. I worked with guys. I was with the guys who work with Besu. Also, last year I was with guys working with anonymous credentials, which is a team that I works with zero knowledge proofs. I think there are people who are in these projects who are willing to show you the way. With the resources stuff, I think they are limited, and I know the community is working so hard. I think one of the projects that I saw that are putting themselves forward is a project that looks to document the Pareja ecosystem and try to put out there knowledge bases that can help new learners to learn to interact with with the ecosystem. And I think as time goes, as you can see now we have started. If we keep the momentum, we are going to have like training sessions where we can train where we can train the ambassadors. The ambassadors can go out there and train their community members. Also, for countries that I think Rwanda, I don't know if Rwanda has a meetup group. I think you can talk to David can set you up. Then you are able to create your community. Also about the physical meetups, I think there are, we try to do a lot of effort to put together a virtual community because it's through the virtual community that you can have a physical meetup. So I think if you stay active and we are able to plan something, we can plan that also. Yeah, I think for the start, this is great, and I'm happy that we are able to share our ideas. Looking forward to taking it to another level. Also, feel free to join the Discord channel. We have an African Charter channel which is open to everyone. You can join there. A lot of information is shared there. Also, the upcoming mentorship program. Stay tuned. I think we will have a run up. A run-up guide to the mentorship program because last year I was there. So if I take you through that, and also you can have prior knowledge of what is expected from you because you are going to undergo a process for you to qualify for that. It has limited slots, but also there is another program which is an internship program where you can join a project and you can also learn from there. David, I think one proceed.
Yeah, so thank you for that. I mean, I'll just add a couple additional thoughts before we wrap up. I mean, one, I've heard people talk about how these tools are complex, and that is true. But I would say if you looked at, for example, Fabric or another tool in the past, be aware that we've had a lot of growth in the community, especially around tools that make using the base platforms easier. So for example, the newest project that came into Hyperledger just earlier this year is called Web3J. It's all about making Ethereum development much easier. There's other tools. Bevel makes deploying Fabric easier. Firefly, for example, makes using, the different platforms easier. So that could be interesting to look at. We could have a whole event perhaps around how do you reduce complexity around these systems, right? Just throw out an idea because I heard people talking about the complexity. But I would just say if you've looked at Fabric in the past or Bezier in the past and it felt like it was complex, take a look at the newest, take a look at this, the website, and see that there are some more recent tools that have come in that you might find useful, and maybe we could do a whole, learning session around those, supporting tools, for example. And then I see on a different topic, I see Ronnie. Thanks, Ronnie, for being able to join us again. I see you talking about perhaps setting up a WhatsApp group. If that's what the group wants, that's certainly, something that you can do. You may have dropped when we were talking about it. The Hyperledger community does use Discord. What I will do is I'll send an email around with the link to the Discord channel. You could use Discord if you want. If the group prefers WhatsApp, you could certainly do that. We see, you know, I think we want to support the group with whatever is going to be easiest for you. We see other parts of the community use WhatsApp. For example, the Brazil chapter is on WhatsApp. So it's really up to you. I would encourage you to consider using Discord though, because that's going to be your best opportunity to interact with other parts of the community because most of the community members are on Discord. But yes, it's really up to you. I would love to see the people on the call today continue the discussion. So it's really up to you how you want to do that. But I will send a link around to the Discord server after this. I'll send a link to the YouTube channel and some of the older information from the Africa chapter as well, the wiki page and the mailing list, just so everybody has it. But it's really up to you to decide what you'd like to do going forward. So yeah, do reach out to me or Ezra though as well if you have questions or suggestions, and we would love to keep talking to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think anyone with a question before we wind up and finish? I hope if there's no one, I think I will take this time to thank everyone for joining. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate for
Let me
I
just
think
switch off
yeah.
this Bluetooth thing because iyahlupha izinto enginotisayo usebenzisa
Someone
lezi
trying to
zinto
speak?
lezi
Yeah, I don't know if
zo-Bluetooth.
that's a question or just background noise. Is there a question?
I don't think. I think
Yeah, it
it's
might
about
just be background noise.
yeah. Thanks so much for being
Ngibone
here.
leyo.
I think try make sure you can join if you're able to join the Discord channel. We can keep the conversation going. Again, for those who are willing to get more information about the ecosystem, I think there are available materials. Some have been shared in the chat, and also I believe
Ngathi yaphela kodwa ngicabanga
this
ukuthi
link will be
ngiyindala
shared after this meeting. The video will be shared for those who want to catch up again. So feel free to reach out. We are here to support you, and looking forward to talking soon. Yeah. David, close the meeting then. Yeah.